All right, welcome back to the Conquest Corner. On this particular video, this series we're doing here, we have finally gotten the updates from Parabellum Games that they promised us at their EOS. We are going through that, discussing it. I'm starting with the factions I know the best. So in this particular video, we're going to go through Sorcerer Kings. The idea is discuss what the changes are, thoughts about them, where I think were upgrades, side shifts, downgrades, all of that, and what I think our power level or general build strategy might be now that things are different. A few things. One, keep in mind if you want to pick up this or anything else, like maybe some of those new one-click 2,000-point armies that they've released, is that we do have a discount code, it's Terrain Kickers. We do have it put in the show notes below as well. Use that code, you save 10%, helps the show out as well. We really do thank everyone who has used it. Quite a few people have, and it really does help us be able to make this work and keep the keep the lights on. But without much further ado, we are going to be going through Sorcerer Kings for this particular one. So Sorcerer Kings, this is the absolute newest army at the time of this recording. And overall, we got some really good changes. We have not yet, which makes sense, got our, like top-down redesigns. That was Nords and Wadroon this particular time. We know that 100 Kingdoms was getting it in January, and we know other ones like Old Dominion, all those had those in the past. But I do think, just prefacing at the beginning, the changes they did for them actually are quite good, and I think they help fix some of the problems that at least that I saw. But let's get into it. For anyone who's watching this before, the new book is here on the left. The old book is over here on the right. When there's spots to make sense of looking at one versus the other, I do swing back. So we do try to do that a little bit. Actually, I'll zoom in one more. There we go. So for the changes, base rules haven't. Your base way that rituals work, everything like that. The power is for every 400 under, it's by 1. All of that's the same, although we're going to see that that's better because the rituals in general are a bit better in many ways. None of that is really any different. When we look at some base profiles, the biggest thing related to your characters that they gain is, down here, that the Maharabati initiates are now listed for these. So for the Maharaj, for the Sorcerer, for the Raj, and for the Sadar, they are, or sorry, not the Sadar, all the rest of them, they are mainstay. The Sadar does take him as restricted though. Makes sense, they're essentially like mages in training. So the Sadar, the non-magic user in the army, isn't quite as good at actually taking them, or they don't go as readily with them. So otherwise, no changes to our characters. That's nice and simple. For upgrades in general have changed. Now, they haven't changed so much for the factions that do not get entirely redesigned, but as people get redesigned, they are lowering the amounts of some of these types of upgrades, especially in the ones when they redesign them, and they're using more keywords to lock them into the appropriate spots. But we're not quite there yet. So, Elemental Tether has changed. Elemental Tether used to be, hey, within 12, when you're resolving a ritual command, count as a wizard +1. For now, all friendly regiments within 12, so it used to be a target, now it's all of them within 12. Count as if they were a character stand with a wizard 1 when doing rituals. It's definitely a lot better. I never took Elemental Tether before. It is useful because a lot of our rituals have like a 12 or so inch range. So let's call it about a foot range. And then, I could pick one and then go further with this. Now it's everywhere in a bubble. So that does mean if I'm doing multiple rituals, I do have this, and also it is off your elementals. We take a lot of elementals, but I do think this is nice. It does give them a flat wizard instead of a wizard +1. Overall, the other part might not have mattered quite as much. I guess maybe actually the only difference is that +1. Oh, my apologies. The big difference, it used to be a draw event. So draw event, target. Now it's draw event, all targets. It is within 12 of it then, so they'll count for doing rituals until the end of that round. So, let me think about that for a second. I'm going to assume it doesn't stick with them if they walk away. I want to assume that because otherwise that's weird, but maybe they'll give us a clarification for sure. We did get some of our patrons' gifts, upgrades, all those things to be altered, which is not surprising since we're a bit newer. The Rema Kajan is different. It used to be the target regiment, you get a draw event, they just take 5 hits. Now it's or death 5. realistically, they probably just did that just to make it simple. So that way, one, there is no morale on that, or a death no longer does morale. Hasn't for a little bit, but does no morale. In this way, it's just a flat amount. And it used to have to be with the character stand. This character stand is currently attached to gains or death. Yeah, so it used to be if you touch my character stand, you would take 5 hits. Now it's my regiment has aura death 5. Much better. One, that means if they can't avoid it, if they're touching your regiment at all, you get that. Two, I find I don't have a lot of draw events, so I don't mind having something like this. 30 points, I'm not sure if I still want it for that. But overall, I do like that a lot better. If you were thinking about taking it before or you wanted it before, it is better in every way now. Shalot is not actually different, but I think the way they taught, I think they just tried to clean up the wording a little bit. Oh, it used to give blessed, no longer gives blessed. That's what it was. Shalot used to give you blessed, you're no longer blessed. That's fine. Shalot is still amazing, and I will still take it for those number of points to start with 2 rituals. 2 ritual markers, I should say. There's a spot where they didn't highlight it, but if you didn't know that was actually changed, it caused you an issue. Yeah, the way it's discussed, it should be for elemental to other passive, so they're just looking at a 12-inch bubble. All right, for other changes, masteries, I know got some changes, mostly points. Some of the other ones did change as well, but you're looking at a lot of points changes. Prince of the Setting Moon went down from 40 to 30, so you're saving 10 points. It was a way to get some heals. Better. I found some of the Sorcerer's patrons, the problem was they were super, super expensive. Bizarre of the Morning Star used to be 35, now it's 30. A little bit cheaper, absolutely helps. These are warlord-only abilities, but if it's costing about the price of a stand, it better do a whole lot. And sometimes I'd found it not easy to get those extra bits out. We're a faction that has a lot of upgrades and tends to take a good amount of them. So because I'm kind of filling up on upgrades, it means one, I'm filling up on a lot of points, but also two, it means I have to actually have worthwhile upgrades to make me want to change from some of the choices I already do. Best money you can buy is now 10 points less. It gives you hardened +1. Really, really useful. I can see that now with the Maharbati coming out, or even if you took it on someone that goes in with Rajakur, now they're really on hardened 2, makes it much more reliable. Heir to Hormus now gives you flank. It's the only change, actually. All the rest of it is pretty much what you had before. But now you also get flank, and you're spending the same amount on it. Lord of Conflict is 10 points cheaper. I don't think it actually does anything different. Oh, actually, a really big difference. So you get +1 to clash attacks and wounds. Really nice on a Raj. I'm not so sure on some of the others. But now, okay, it was only 20 points before, but even at 10 points, I honestly wouldn't take it before. Because unless I had nothing else better to take. Because it locks me out. I can take no other masteries. And we have a lot of very, very good masteries. Now it's only 10 points. And you can still take another mastery. So if I want my Raj, who, the way I take them, he tends to be the one's a little more fighty. And he also has, spells that give him cleave and stuff like that. Now I can take that and still take another useful upgrade. Especially because he can take various arcane ones. Now you can actually start getting some extra bits. All right, let's take a look at some of those arcane. Elemental feedback now is only 30. Used to be 35, so 5 points, not too bad. I think that's worthwhile because it's good, but the heal 2 for every 2 successes, and it not stacking means that doesn't get you quite as far as you want. Elemental projection is now 20 points. Elemental projection used to be 30, so down by 10. 3 more inches to the, it used to be, there it is, yes, 3 more inches to the spell. Good, I'm still not going to take it, personally, because there's probably just other things I'm going to do. Bouncy elements I usually take on someone. Maybe I will. At least now I'll consider it. I found the points really for this army. I go through them very fast because I'm putting 20 to 30 points, usually minimum, on every one of my characters. And this is an army that I want 3 to 4 characters if I can do it, like 3 minimum, which means I'm putting in, by the time it's all said and done, actually a cheap regiment in just upgrades and sometimes even more. So saving me the points on that, maybe now actually take a look at it. Sorcerer or Maharaj, I guess. Maybe Sorcerer. Locus of the Elements, 20 points. Used to be 40, but rather different. So Locus of the Elements, elementals within 12 can use the character's resolve other than their own. If you're broken, can't do it. What does now? Friendly regiments with the elemental within 10 gain fearless. So that removes, oh, sorry, where is it? There, oh, there we go. That removes fearful and effects of terrifying. Useful. I don't know if I would take it personally, just for the sorts of things I do, but it's cheaper, which always helps. And if you are taking tons of elementals, I do find 3s and 3s on stats can go pretty fast, especially if someone can lower those stats at all. So I could see an argument for it. What I'll probably do is once all this is done, I'll probably build some lists with these new stuff and kind of see what sits where. Like, I'm probably more likely to take a Sorcerer's Patron now because it's a little bit cheaper. I'm a little more likely to take Lord of Conflict or maybe money can buy. I don't always fill up on masteries because I've spent a bunch of money, or sorry, points, I should say. I've spent a bunch of money too, but a bunch of points on patrons' gifts. I know they don't interact with each other, but you can't necessarily spend 50, 60 points on a character and still feel good about it at some point. All right, spells. A little bit change here. Wreathed in Flames is now, instead of you gain Aura Death 2, which would have been 2 per stand, now you just got Aura Death 4. Remember, the way Aura Death works, you touch any stand in that regiment, you are taking 4. No matter how many of them you hit, that's not spelled right. I'm bad at spelling. That's not spelled right, but that's okay. We'll forgive them. Same thing with Ignite. Ignite used to be you got some Aura Death 2 per things. Nope, Aura Death 4. Any spot we see where we had 2, now Aura Death 4. Read them flyer, Aura Death 4. Used to be 2 per. So we were never much of an Aura Death faction in my mind. We had that little bit extra that could just, maybe pop a little bit of damage onto someone. Now we have these nice flat numbers. Again, we're still not an Aura Death faction, but going straight to a 4 is pretty good. Especially that one because Aura Death 4 with the Dread. Yeah, this means there's many times I've had it where, say, my Raj is in a unit of Efreet and he ends up getting either charged on the side or I don't get a very big charge in because of my position. I'm only hitting them with 1 to maybe 2 stands. Well, now I'm just getting a flat 4, which for what I was doing was about what I was getting before anyway. But at least now I know it's always 4 no matter what happens. All right, rituals did take some changes. A little bit less in the fire rituals. They're all the same numbers for the ritual thresholds of the fire that they had before. However, conflagration used to be you can do this out of sequence spellcasting action and count as 4 successes. No longer 4 successes, you just get to cast a spell. Obviously overall less reliable for sure, because you no longer get this flat amount, but you could do better. The part that is back and forth on this is when I would take Kadu Kavach, which gives you, if you do a successful spell cast, then that type of thing, either if it's fire or air-based, that they get to reroll 6s. I've had a couple times when I roll for the spell with, say, my Maharaj who has it, and he fails. And 6 dice just doesn't get to go off. What I always liked is Conflagration was a great way to guarantee it. So I'd Conflagrate, hit someone with 4, automatically get my Kadu Kavach, then I'll use the Court of Fire ritual to draw my next command card, hey, Born of Flame thing, do 3 actions. Remember, 3 actions now the max on your turn. Out of sequence, do not count. So this does not count as one of the 3 actions that you're allowed to do. So Conflagration is worse in general, but that's absolutely fine. Until you fail that roll. Fire Dominion. It used to be the next 2 enemy regiments don't get the draw event. I never used it. I used it if I had, here's this guy, I might as well start a ritual. Everything else is all set. At the end of the round, my elemental, my arcane arcane conduits are going to get me the points I want. Why not? Now I actually would, because this is actually really, really good. Non-friendly objective marker within 8 inches of the spellcaster is immediately destroyed. Keep in mind, objectives usually are 3 wounds, defense 3. You can't take them out in 1 hit. You can do, in general, unless you're heavy, you can only do 1 damage per thing. We do have impact in some spots, but our things that impact, unless you are one of the giant monsters, you're doing maybe 1 with that and then swinging. The next round, you're having to swing, so you're eating up multiple actions. Now, I'm just using a ritual. And keep in mind, you can't control exactly when it happens, but you can slow play some of these. So if you know there's a good objective and it's going to take me, let's say, 2 or 3 turns to get there, I don't have to start pumping this thing with tokens until a little bit later. I can say, okay, if I have like 3 turns before I'm going to get there with one of my sorcerers, then I need to average 2 tokens a turn. If I start this with a Shalot, then I already have the 2, which means I can kind of work on some other things and just kind of get it when I need to. This is one now that I will probably start reasonably early, and then I will wait on it, assuming there's objectives to destroy. But I'll start this one pretty early, and then I'm just going to let it sit there. And maybe anytime I feel like it, I'll put one on until I know around the turns when I'm going to get there. And keep in mind, we do have a way to count a 12-inch bubble with a banner, so that way your elementals can now count for 8 inches of the friendly spellcaster. So I think that's really good. It's a nice way to get points. Court of Air, I think, got the biggest because 1, they got lowered, and 2, I might actually use them. So Court of Air before, they were 7, 6, 6. Now they're all 5s. So now the only 6 is Fire Dominion, which is fine. What they didn't actually change other than Farsight. Farsight used to be 3 cards, now it's 2. But I will tell you, honestly, I never used Farsight. I never used Farsight because it took 7. That is so much slower. It takes forever to make that happen when most of the fiery ones, which I do like just because of the type of armies I ran, only took 5. Now them making 5 as well means I might actually use them. I will be honest, I did not take a lot of air stuff. I think they did some reasonable improvements to air that now actually makes you consider, do you want to take air stuff? I would like them to do... I don't know if they did enough to make it worthwhile, but to go like full air, but now I think you can mix in air and feel good about it. All right, for regiments, some changes, not too many. Ghouls are the first ones that got changed. Absolutely fine with the change to ghouls. They lost an attack, but they gained a clash. That is absolutely an upgrade. Losing an attack, okay, so that means I don't take them in 3s, but let's assume 3 for a second. For 3 of them, that means I've lost 3 attacks, but now I'm hitting twice as much. Realistically, I'm hopefully inspired because I charged, because I'm elemental, and maybe I got 3 actions, so I moved, charged, and assaulted you. But let's say you didn't. Let's say you're just swinging. You're now hitting twice as often with only 1 less attack. Each stand now, instead, because let's assume you spend an action to inspire then clash. You're now looking at, not counting the leader for a second, you're looking at 9, so about 9 to 10. Where, because you're 6 attacks each, so it's about 3 attacks each, and then the 1 extra, so about between 9 to 10. Whereas before, you're only hitting 1/3. The 20, we're looking at 7. So on average, you're getting about 1 to 2 extra hits. And if you have either bigger units, or if you happen to roll a little bit more, you're more likely to roll good numbers here. I find, in general, when I take ghouls, I would take them in like 6 blocks. 1, because their stats were terrible. Their defense and resolve are not very good. So you need a big block to make sure some people survive. The other thing was, because their clash was so bad, I would need, 30 plus attacks to get any numbers in. I could probably do with a stand or 2 less, if I think they'll survive, if I can play them cagey enough. But I can probably do with a few less stands and still get almost the same amount of output. I haven't actually crunched the numbers. Let me think. Yeah, it did a little bit of number crunching then, not counting the extra for the command stand, because that actually with 30 even better. It's about 2/3 of an attack or a hit difference. When you add in that extra stand, you're probably looking at almost extra attack. You're probably looking at each one being maybe like 4/5 of an attack more, which means if I'm taking now 5 stands, I can probably get the same amount as I was getting at close to 6. Now again, you could go crazy on your dice rolls, but you could have went crazy before. But if you're rolling average dice, if you're worried about, say, points or amounts, you could probably cut about a stand of what you were doing in the past and get just about the same amount out of them. And this also does mean if you roll more average, you're going to get quite a bit more out of them. Especially now, if I can be on 3s and with a Kadu Kavach, re-rolling 6s, now I'm very, very reliable. So overall, love the change. Plus, less dice. I only got so many dice from Baron of Dice. Maharabati Initiates are actually out. I'll discuss them very briefly. I want to do a separate video discussing some of the new units, but we'll talk about them very quickly. 160 points, about right where I thought they would fall. They are better than Rajakur in many ways, so you're paying more points for these guys. They're move 6, which is nice. They're 6 attacks to stand. They're 2s and 2s, so they don't have great survivability. They're Arcane Conduit. Remember, Arcane Conduit means if you end your turn, either now as character or regiment, then you get 1 point on a ritual that's already working. These guys have it. They also have Cleave, one of the few ways we have Cleave. The only spot we have Line Breaker, really. I can't think of any Line Breaker anywhere. And they do count as a wizard. They are not casting spells, but they do count as a wizard, so that means it does cause disruption. They can have rituals cast through them, because rituals look for spellcasters. And if they're targeted by an enemy spell casting action, they get +2 to their evade, so now evade 3. And their +5 stands for scaling. So if it's a scaling spell, you're looking at least 1 extra success with that +5. Realistically, depending on the number you're sitting at, they might actually need 2 more successes to actually get it to work. So you can really help out scaling quite a bit. I do like them a lot. I do think they're pretty good. I'm iffy about putting my characters in them because I think they're going to survive like garbage. They are 2s and 2s instead of 3s and 3s, which is a huge, huge difference. So honestly, I'm taking these guys in probably little 3 blocks, and they are going to deal with the problems that I either don't want to put my Ifrit or Jin into, or my Rakshasa. And, oh, someone's got, Shield and Bastion or all those sorts of things. Well, okay, I'm going to send the Line Breaker at them to remove some of those special rules. Not that it works on every single special rule, but it will help in general. So overall, I really rate them highly. I'm probably going to go with 2 boxes myself. Not that I always use them, but I'm liking packs of 3 to 4. Maybe more when we see all that happens. Denora Disciples did lose some range. They used to be, was it 22? Oh, sorry, 20. They used to be 20. They're down to 18. That's fine. That's not much of a difference. I'm perfectly fine with that. If they want to shorten the range game, that's a little bit. Flamecasters went up. Flamecasters used to be 160, they're now 170, but they did get the extra impact. Every brute we have now is impact 3. So pretty good. You can still smack someone and then rush in to kind of finish them off. Absolutely fine with that. Windborn Jin gained an extra barrage. So they used to be barrage 3. Now they have the extra impact as well. And I'll be honest, I have 2, actually I have them sitting right here. I'm painting them currently. They have very little paint on them because they were on my project this week, but I was sick and then my wife was sick, so it was a nutty week for us here. But with only 3 attacks, it was really rough. I like them, and I built them because I wanted to use them. But with only 3 attacks, you're just not getting tons of attacks out. When you compare it to the Flamecasters, who are getting 5 attacks each, yeah, these guys have AP, but it was kind of a hard argument to make other than like range. Now with 4, now they're pretty similar in terms of amount of attacks. I know the other ones can get more in effective range, but now, okay, only down by 1, but armor piercing, that does me a lot of good. So I like these a lot. And now, especially with the Flamecasters being, 170, 50 a stand, where these guys are 190, 60 a stand, they're also a little bit closer points-wise. So you're spending a little bit more, a little less, 1 less attack in general, but you're getting the AP, which is a big bump. So I'm loving that. Sorry, little thing on my phone there. Steelheart Jin. Honestly, I wasn't taking them, but now they're 10 points cheaper, which is nice. And more importantly, they now have, or I guess maybe not more importantly, they now have the impact 3. They had the problem the same way. The Ifrit get more with less quality. So they had quantity. Quantity is a quality on its own. These guys have less quantity, but more quality because they're at cleave. Making them a little bit cheaper. And our upgrades got cheaper, so maybe now I throw a couple extra upgrades on. And getting impact 3 does me quite a bit. Mahut is now an Arcane Conduit, as well as our Rakshasas. So now if a Mahut is standing on a spot, you can get some ritual power for it. They changed the way Trample worked a little bit, but otherwise not too different from this. The Rakshasas used to have Aura Death 5. They are now Aura Death 6. Also, they both went up to Resolve 4. I personally found that I lost Rakshasas surprisingly easily. I think that's true of monsters in this game in general. I think going to that is going to help them a whole lot. The Aura Death 6 is actually better than what we had in the past. We're also going to know that the Ravarna is fearless. So the other one is not, but that one is fearless. But they're both on Conduit. They're both Aura Death 6. So better Aura Death, better Resolve. Didn't have to pay anything extra. I like my double Rakshasa list, spending 500 points on both of these boys. Trinavarta, not out yet. One of the last few things that we're waiting on. Went down by 20 points. So that's a good sign that they're altering it, because that means they're really testing it. And they're thinking they might give it to us or have it go up before they get a big like rewrite for this. Because otherwise, why would you bother changing it? You don't take it to official things anyway. Goes up to down volley 2 from volley 3. It does have 12 dice, so that works fine. And Arcane Conduit. I haven't tried it out yet because it's not out yet. I would like to give it a shot, but the 20 less points I think does help quite a bit. They give us a little bit of our upcoming previews, and then we mentioned the Arcane Conduit. If the regiment or character stand is in range. So characters have it, regiments have it as well. It used to essentially just be character stands, but now more units have it. They really are leaning into, for these guys, to their rituals, which I think is very strong. Also currently, at least, that is my hair sticking up. There we go. Also currently, at least, they've changed the way that you determine who goes first. It's no longer the plus or minus 1 to who has less cards. Now it's whoever didn't go first last time. I think I'm interested to see what that change will do. But I think that change does mean that for us, getting a bunch of rituals essentially always meant that you weren't going first. Now it means about every other turn, you're more likely to go first, which means you can capitalize on your rituals a little more. It also means you don't have to initially feel as concerned of the turns of when you pump a bunch of rituals in. Your air rituals are cheaper by 1 to 2 each. You have much easier ways to get to the numbers you need because of how much stuff has Arcane Conduit. You could easily have, a Mahut and a Rakshasa and a Maharabati or a couple other things standing on some objectives, maybe fighting some people, but they're on an objective. Now you're getting multiple power. I think you're going to see your rituals happening a lot more. I think they become a little bit more reliable. And that means I'm also going to be able to get my elemental 3 actions to occur much more often than they used to. I think there's some other reasons why, of course, as well. But I think that's one of the spots where you see why they capped it at 3 actions. Not that we can get some more, but this way they also don't have to worry about if they put something in. Oh, actually, yes, technically, there's a cap reason. 3 actions on your turn count as one of your 3. So like a Trinavarta, who's elemental and gets a free ranged attack. Without that cap, if you use it, you could actually gotten 4 because you get 3 actions and your freebie. No, you're capped at 3. You don't get the extras. So we are one of the reasons. There's probably others. I just can't think of them right now, but I'm sure there's other reasons as well. All right, so what do I think? Overall, we got better. We really did. None of our like upgrades got worse or got removed. Some of them changed a little bit, but none of them changed in a bad way. I think all of them changed in either a side shift or a good way. Going to flat Aura Deaths went quite nice. They didn't do anything like Kadu Kavach or harm that in any way, so I'm very happy about that. If you actually want to take a fighty character, Lord of Conflict is better because it's cheaper and you can still take other upgrades. We saved points in most spots. We only really went up in, one spot. Ghouls, which now that I have more of a full faction, I was a little iffy on taking. They're definitely better. The wind elementals are definitely better in general, so they definitely help out, where I was kind of just all running fire stuff. I think also the fact that those rituals are better now for air means you might take them more often, or you might use them more often. Even when I took air units, I rarely ever used them, but now they're cheaper. I'm going to get them more often, which means that now my Court of Air, when you flip that extra command card, you now get something better because now you can actually use your air things for it. Like I've kind of felt before. If I wanted to say my Steelborn, let's just say, I would love a turn for them to have the 3 actions. With the Elemental, they can do that. But they have to have Ritual card go off before them and it has to be the right type. I want to clarify what I was saying there. Elemental. So if you pull a ritual, if your next card is an elemental unit, they may get an extra action. Elemental doesn't require them to match the type of ritual. But if you want to draw their card immediately after the ritual, it does match. Now, Farsight always ignores this. But otherwise, when you're done with a ritual, you get to draw the next card. And if it matches the element of the next card, you get to go with that card. Then if they're elemental, hey, I win immediately and I get 3 actions. You could do a Steelborn off of a Court of Air card, but it'd have to be in the following activation, not immediately. So your opponent goes in between. I find some of the biggest things for me is trying to combo it with a useful ritual, the action, the unit then going afterwards, and 3 actions. If you're willing to wait, it works well. But I was finding I wasn't using air rituals very much at all. I think now I'm going to use them quite a bit more. I always liked the idea of using air rituals. I just never did. And I think things like Spiteful Winds now also become much stronger because now, okay, I can get it a little easier. I could use it on my Steelborn. And, Spiteful Winds is against your opponent. I was thinking of a different one. My apologies. That's the one where, their march is reduced. Okay, I can get that. It's one I always liked the sound of, but it was a little too expensive, and I wasn't really running air stuff. Air stuff's a little bit better now, so maybe I use it more. So overall, we are better. I think everything is an upgrade. Do I think it's going to change much in terms of the list? For me personally, it's going to add more air units. It's going to see more air-based stuff. I now might take my Sorcerer or my Maharaj as air. I don't think I'm going to go full air. I did build a full air list. I think when the Turn of Arta's out, I'll maybe try full air and see what I think of that. But otherwise, I think you're going to see a lot more air. And I think it's going to feel good that way. I think you're also, especially if you're an opponent to Sorcerer Kings, you're going to see more rituals. Because there's a lot more ways to get that Arcane Conduit to start getting those buffs. You don't have to. So I currently run a 3-character list. I run a Sorcerer, Maharaj, and a Raj. I used to run 2 Rajas, just not doing it right now. Which means my old Arcane Conduit, I was maxed at +3. So if everyone's standing on objective, those characters are getting +3. Here's the other thing. The characters are in their most offensive units. In general, my Sorcerer is going to probably go into a Dinor Disciples. But otherwise, I'm in the most offensive units I can, which is my Rakshasa. Sorry, my Rajakur. My apologies. But even then, not super defensive. And if we start losing our characters, we lose. Which means if I wanted to get my spells fast, my rituals faster, I should say, that I needed to often put some of them in harm's way. You usually got an objective or 2 near your back, but then you got to start pushing them up, depending on the mission, of course. What it means now is I have units that wanted to push up, that were going to be probably standing on objectives anyway. My Rakshasa was going to be hitting someone in the face who's on objective to take them off of it, and he's getting me power. I don't think it's going to mean I take less characters, because I only get rituals because of my characters are the ones who start them. So I think I'm still going to always take 3 characters. I personally, I'd be iffy about going to 2, because I don't think you'll get your rituals faster, but you're much more restricted at getting them. And if you lose a character, then you're kind of out. But what this means is I don't have to necessarily put my characters in harm's way. If I have an objective in the backfield, I'll go stand on that with one of them. But then I'll have some other units that push up that can get those points for me as well, especially Maharabati. So overall, I think list build, I'm not probably going to change too much. I got a little bit more free points, so maybe I can get an extra stand of something in, because some of those upgrades are a little cheaper, or maybe I can take that 1 extra upgrade, because not all my characters ran 1 and 1. Some only ran like a single upgrade. So a little bit more upgrades, a little bit more wind, and more rituals, which are all the things that I want. All right, so that is it for the both going over and a review discussion related to these rules changes. Let me know what you think. Let me know any thoughts that you have. Is this changing, if you're playing Sorcerer Kings, is this changing any of what you're doing? If you're playing against them, or is there anything you're really excited to see, or anything that you're worried about? Personally, from all the ones I've read, everyone got good things. I haven't seen, there's probably, if I look around, enough people complaining about certain things, but I just try to avoid some of that. First of all, the stuff just came out. Second of all, play for fun. Enjoy yourself. But everything I see here, I honestly, I really, really do like. I didn't find any problems with any of it. Some of the other ones, there's some problems, but I didn't see anything here. All right, keep in mind if you want to pick up any content for this, any of the other armies, we now actually do have that giant one-click bundle, and there's a bunch of other things. We got some new stuff coming out. The campaign pack is going to drop soon. Planning Steve and I to go through that, and I'm planning on, if I can to mess with my printer downstairs, printing out a bunch of the terrain as well. So I want to pick up those. But if you're looking to pick up anything from Conquest, Terrain Kickers, we have a discount code, saves you 10%, helps us out as well. And it really does go away. And I do think for everyone who uses that or anything else, like I said, we have a Patreon as well. I don't push that here because I'd rather you guys get something out of it directly as well. All right, this is video 2 that I've made so far. Probably doing another 1 or 2 tonight, and then you're going to see the rest later. So on behalf of everyone here at the show, has a good hobby. It's a great gaming.